Hello, everybody. We'll get started with the webinar at this time. Let's just do a quick systems check first. Let me know if you're seeing my screen all right and hearing me clearly. Type OK in the chat box. Okay, just waiting on some more responses. If you're hearing me clearly, seeing my screen all right, please type OK in the chat box. Okay, one more time. I need some more responses. I'm assuming maybe I'm having some audio issues. I'm not getting very many responses in the chat box. I typed a message there. Please type OK in the chat box if you're hearing me all right. Pavel, are you asking a question? Just trying to get set up here with the technical setup, make sure everybody's okay. If you don't respond, then I assume maybe there's an issue. Is that what you mean by what? Okay, great. All right, so let's move forward. I'm assuming everybody's okay. A few people still haven't responded, but we'll assume they're all right. Okay, so obviously we're focusing on cryptocurrencies today. As we go through, we'll take a look at some of the things that are happening with the US, as most of the crypto pairings are paired against the USD, so it is definitely relevant. One thing to keep in mind as we go forward, all investments have risk. I think we all realize that. There's no guarantee of profit on any one move. Trading Forex, CFDs, spread betting, and options obviously have risk. You can read the full risk disclosure statement on our main website. Also keep in mind that what we cover is not meant to be financial advisement. It's coming from an educational perspective. As we go through, keep in mind some things about cryptocurrencies in general. They're decentralized, meaning the blockchain technology behind cryptocurrencies, there isn't a single country to call home. It's a decentralized setup, very secure type technology with the blockchain that help build the system and the assets. And there's no one location that if there's an economic announcement in the US that would affect cryptocurrencies in general, or an economic announcement or production numbers in the European Union, that sort of thing, how normal currencies are affected, traditional currencies. So cryptocurrencies tend to lend themselves to more effective technical analysis as there's less fundamental news affecting them. That's not to say there isn't some fundamental news. There certainly is. We'll take a look at some today that maybe we should keep in mind. But technical analysis-wise, cryptocurrencies lend themselves to technical traders a bit better than maybe some other assets. And so we'll take a look on the charts as well as we move forward. If anyone has any questions about cryptocurrency technology, that sort of thing, we can go over it. I don't think it's necessary for our purposes today, as really what we want to look at is what opportunities are there on the chart to potentially go after. So first, we can take a look at the economic calendar, and we can say, okay, there's some pretty big announcements coming up for the USD today. Okay, so as we look at the calendar, let me make sure this is refreshed. We can see that at 7, let's see, this is 7 a.m. We're on New York Standard Time here, or East Coast New York time. So you can adjust, by the way, these economic calendars to your local time zone if you want. But we see a number of U.S. announcements coming up a little bit later this afternoon. There's some here, and then some larger ones later in the day. The FOMC will be talking late evening time, GMT time, or early afternoon time, New York time. The FOMC committee determines interest rate decisions, monetary policy in the U.S. So they're actually meeting minutes that will be released later today. So there's a lot that could move the strength of the USD. And so you want to keep that in mind as you're preparing your risk management, your entry points, exit points for your crypto pairings. If it's paired against the USD, a lot of potential for movement today. We've got crude oil inventories today as well, which not only affects oil, but can affect the strength of the USD also. So that to keep in mind. Nothing that's come out yet today that would really move the USD in terms of economic announcements. Then if we take a look specifically at cryptocurrencies, they're saying by next year they think there could be more regulation on cryptocurrencies. That can be good and can be bad for values of cryptocurrencies. Maybe the negative swing on more regulations would be that it restricts cryptocurrency a bit in terms of what's allowed, but at the same time, it helps cultivate legitimate trading, right? It builds confidence. So maybe it would take away some of the volatility and stabilize the assets more, but also increase the volume of trading on cryptocurrencies if regulation starts to legitimize things more and more in different countries. So that's interesting for the industry in general. And this is the type of fundamental news we tend to get on cryptocurrencies, is some general news, some articles about the industry itself, sometimes on specific cryptocurrencies. And so that's interesting to know that actually I would view more as a positive for the industry, for those of you maybe holding coins that aren't trading CFD style, because then you can only make profit as they go up. That could be positive for the industry. And then as we look, Bitcoin and altcoins being most other coins other than Bitcoin, thrust underway. So downside thrust underway. So there's some negative sentiment building that as I pull up articles on cryptocurrencies right now, today, they're all negative. Negative sentiment. This article is certainly negative sentiment. Here's another one here showing sentiment dropped on pretty much all the coins, down 11%, down 6%, down 13%, 12%, etc. Across the board, the most highly traded cryptocurrency coins, sentiment has dropped. Okay, and they're either in the neutral zone or even headed towards the somewhat negative zone with the sentiment. And so that's good to know as you go onto the chart. What way is the wind maybe blowing fundamentally? And here's something else to look at. Do you think this is good or bad for the strength of the USD? Beijing tariff demands may expand U.S.-China Phase 1 trade deal significantly. The headlines yesterday were about that the U.S. and China were having some trouble now, again, agreeing on even this Phase 1 deal. Now there's some arguing back and forth about the tariff demands from China. Trump saying he doesn't want to roll back any of the already existing tariffs, and China saying they won't do Phase 1 deal without rolling back some tariffs. Roll back means take away some of the tariffs that were already added. So if you haven't noticed, gold went shooting up today as this news came out. The safe havens are strengthening. The yen pulled down many other assets. What do you think that does to the strength of the USD? Anyone have an idea or an opinion? Bad news for U.S.-China trade negotiations would do what for the strength of the U.S. dollar, do you think? Yeah, some of you are saying probably weaken it, probably makes sense. So if the cryptocurrencies have had negative sentiment, they've dropped quite a bit, maybe they've reached some major support levels, and you think the US dollar has reason to weaken today, maybe it's an opportunistic spot to take a shot at a pullback up with some of these cryptocurrencies. But it depends on the technical analysis as well, because the fundamental news doesn't look so good right now for crypto land, okay, based on the headlines we just looked at. Now, let's go ahead to my demo account. We'll take a look at some things. This is Ripple paired against the USD on the 1 hour chart. This is Bitcoin against the USD. Let's compare same chart. That's 1 hour chart. What I see in terms of the movement with Bitcoin, let's expand this, all right? Obviously, we see the negative sentiment has taken effect over the past even week, okay? We see downtrend was pretty strong. We see support level broken. By the way, this was an easy move. I was alluding to the fact as we got started, even without looking at fundamental news, trading on cryptos just with technical analysis strategies can work very, very well, right? So we see the support level here. Support. It's not a coincidence that these 3 times it reversed up from almost the exact same spot. 1, 2, 3, okay? And then if you were waiting, if you saw that there was negative sentiment, downtrend, what kind of pending order could I have right down here if I went back in time waiting for this support level to get broken? What kind of pending order would, if the movement was still above the support and I'm waiting for it to break, what kind of pending order would sell from a lower point? Yeah, sell stop, exactly. So a sell stop here, very simple technical analysis strategy, would have paid very well. Okay, and it never even retested back up. Never retested back up. If your stop loss, if your entry point was below the support, your stop loss maybe was back above the support, as an example. Once it broke and triggered your sell stop, it never went up to even get near your stop loss, and it dropped from this entry point of 83.19, it dropped all the way to below 8,100. So nearly $300 drop in the value of one coin. Okay, so if you had a 1 lot position, 10 coins, $300 drop with 10 coins is $3,000 potential profit there. Okay, obviously you're not going to necessarily get the perfect low point down here, but once it started consolidating and going sideways like it is now, you could have taken your profit. Okay, so very simple technical analysis strategy, and going with, as we've seen over the past week or two, some negative sentiment, some broken support lines with the cryptos. So very, very simple move here. Now, the question is, what can I do now? That's nice. Hindsight is 20/20, as they say. If it's so easy, right, then why don't we take a look and say, okay, what might happen in the future, right? So let's do that. Again, no one move is guaranteed to win, right? We're going after potential here, and with technical analysis entry points to try and be opportunistic. What we see here, let me get rid of these lines that I drew. What we see here on Bitcoin is the downtrend slowed. Okay, when you have a downtrend, you say low point getting lower. So from here to here, low point got lower. From here to here, low point got lower. From here to here, the low point got lower. All of a sudden, the low point barely got lower here, right? It flattened out, and now the low point got higher. You see here. So that is what we call a reversal of the downtrend. So let me draw a couple lines again. Here it was a downtrend. Here we see a reversal, low points starting to get higher. And we also notice here the high points were getting lower, and now all of a sudden high points started to get higher. Okay, so very easy to see that. And if you feel like the USD has reason to weaken today, and maybe it's opportunistic that there is so much negative sentiment on the cryptocurrencies that they've already priced that in, that they've already dropped, right? You might feel that's old news. yeah, those articles are showing us negative sentiment. But you also look and you say, yeah, that's why they already dropped. And maybe that doesn't mean that that is what has to happen moving forward, right? And so if you look and you see the technical analysis, you say, yeah, I understand now why it dropped, negative sentiment, negative headlines, and then I see a reversal of the trend, and I have reason why the USD might be kind of weak today. And given that there's a lot of large announcements on the US dollar today, if you feel like this evening, the FOMC committee, when there's bad news between US and China, does anyone know what the FOMC committee has been saying about maybe lowering interest rates on the USD again eventually, if there's not progress between US and China on the trade deal, right? That's part of what they're weighing in. And so as that leads up to the FOMC meeting minutes coming out tonight, if they're alluding to more things about we still see weakness in the economy, if they say things like we're still dependent upon a deal between US and China, you may see the US dollar weaken more from those types of what they would call dovish minutes in those meeting minutes that they might release. If it's the opposite, the USD could strengthen, obviously, but we're talking about potential and what do you think might happen, okay? And so there's a huge potential for a climb back up. And if we switch, let's go to larger candles now. If we switch, we say, where is the ceiling? Where's the next resistance level? If this starts to reverse and go up, I'm looking at 4-hour candles. Where's my first major resistance? It would be this old support, wouldn't it be? Support, support, breakthrough candle. Okay, if this climbs back up from the current price of 88,041, the next major resistance looks to be around 83.65. Okay, so we're talking potential climb. If it goes to that resistance level that I drew, no guarantee that it will, right? But the potential's there that it could, then we're talking about over $300 climb back up, retracing that $300 drop or so that it did not that far back. Okay, and we've all seen cryptocurrencies do these sorts of things. Okay, so the potential profit, if we look at this, could be $300 climb per coin in your position size. And what's the risk? What do we have to risk here? Where's a logical spot you might put your stop loss if you're the type that trades with stop losses as a way of managing risk? Where might you put your stop loss if you took a market buy right now off this? Yeah, many of you are saying below the support level. So if we're going to name a price, can someone give me a price? If this is where the reversal started, yeah, I might be just below, so maybe around 79.60, give or take. Something like that would get me below this low point here. And if it broke below that, then that means the downtrend started, right? If the downtrend starts again, then you might in your mind say, okay, I'm wrong. I'm out. I'll take that small loss. I'm risking, down to, maybe $40, $50 down for the potential profit of 300. Okay, 5-to-1, 6-to-1 type profit to risk ratio. You only need to be right 1 out of 3 times the profit, 1 out of 4 times the profit on a setup like that. So it's all about potential and technical entry points, and then trying to get the fundamental news on your side as much as possible. Unfortunately, right now, we don't see positive headlines for crypto. Boy, this would be a great setup if the fundamental news articles were saying, hey, great news for cryptos, sentiment is up. And if it looked like this right now, then I would be even more kind of gung-ho to say, wow, this fundamental news is blowing cryptos up right now. It really isn't, We just look. It's kind of negative sentiment for cryptos and negative sentiment for the USD. So kind of a weak horse against a weak horse right now. But it doesn't mean that the sentiment can't change And we've all seen that happen with cryptos in an instant, okay? So this is where if the fundamental news is neutral, and I kind of view it as neutral right now with both the cryptocurrencies and the USD both kind of being weaker horses right now. So if the fundamental news is neutral, then what do you fall back on? Yeah, technical analysis, exactly. Technical analysis is what you go back to if the fundamental news doesn't seem to give you an advantage one way or another. And you might read the tea leaves different. Maybe you look at it and you say, well, there was that article about regulation, maybe coming in more countries. Maybe you view that article as being more positive than I view it. And if so, then maybe you say, maybe there is turning sentiment to go positive right now. And that certainly could be the case. But in any event, even if the fundamental news is neutral, which is kind of how I view it right now, you can see that the technical analysis shows a downtrend that ended, at least for now, and a slight uptrend that has begun with a higher low point showing. So if that's the case, then this could be a nice technical entry point to go after, a potential retracement back up to this resistance area with only a small risk below the current established low point before you'd bail out potentially. Any comments on that? Any questions? Yeah, Chris, you could hedge instead of stop loss, certainly. If you took a buy position here, instead of putting a stop loss down here, you could have a sell stop. And if it kept dropping, you'd be covered. You'd be fully hedged if you took the same size trade as a sell stop. Assuming it broke the wrong way, then you could stay with it. And in that case, if you still believe that it would go up more than down, then you'd have the stop loss on the hedge. If it came back up above the support, then you'd get out of that sell, and then that way you still are in on the buy. That type of setup is best if you believe in one direction more than the other. Meaning you take the market buy now, you back it up with a sell stop as a hedge for protection, and then the stop loss is on the hedge in case it comes back up. That would be, I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm saying that would be, if you believe in buy more than sell, that would be a way you could set it up. Okay. Certainly if you believed in sell more than buy, you could do the opposite. All right. All right. I don't see any questions coming in. Let's take a look at some of the other pairings. So we've got Ripple here, and we see something similar, don't we? We see a huge downtrend. Okay. This is starting to make me feel like those articles about negative sentiment, obviously they're looking back a few days. Seems to be old news to me, because here's the negative sentiment, here's the dropping, here's the downtrend, and look at the reversal. There's the uptrend, higher low point, even a new support level formed. Went to a higher high point from here to here, higher low point from here to here, and then established a much higher high point to this resistance, and then respected the new support right here. So this looks like something that also flipped similar to the Bitcoin, and it actually sets up, maybe it looks even nicer technical analysis wise, because a new support level is formed as well right here. Okay. And it actually tested a high point back up to this resistance already, and then came back down to the support and looks like it's bouncing again. Okay, so it looks like the same sort of setup as the Bitcoin setup when we look at Ripple. Okay, again, if I'm not saying you should, if you believed that this is going to try to come back up towards this ceiling that it recently established, okay, that's quite a climb. That's quite a potential profit up to here. And your risk could just be to the underside of this support that it's currently bouncing off of. It's a really nice technical analysis setup if you believe in the buy here. Sure, let's take a look at Neil. We have a special request. Okay, so don't we see the same thing? Look at this. Negative sentiment, negative movement, downtrend. We see downtrend ended. We see higher high points come in and higher low points. Okay? Then we see a reversal, but we also see a support level right here. This was resistance, resistance. It broke through here and came back above and then acted as support. And here it is bouncing off this support here. So again, you've got a reestablished support on an uptrend, potential for it to bounce, and stop loss could be down below the support with very limited risk. So NEO sets up the same way. If you believe in the recovery back up now, it sets up nice technical analysis-wise for a limited risk move with a much larger potential profit to the recently established ceiling right up here. Okay. Now, you certainly could say, well, if the sentiment stays negative, if it breaks the support, you could have your sell stop prepared right down here. You don't have to try and guess the market. You don't have to say, well, okay, I'll guess and I'll only buy. You could buy. If it breaks the support, you could get out of the buy and have your sell stop activated to sell and take your profit down at the next support level if it breaks the current support. So you could do a 1-2 type setup. If you like the market position for a buy, you can do that. Stop loss below the support maybe. If it breaks the support, hits your stop loss, then you can activate your sell stop that you might have already pending down there as a pending order and be in on the opposite direction. That way you don't have an emotional commitment to the movement. You're not trying to prove that you're right. You're going with what the technical analysis shows you. And this sort of strategy works very well when the fundamental news is neutral. When the fundamental news is neutral and you don't prefer one direction necessarily over the other fundamentally, then you can go pure technical analysis if you'd like. And so technical analysis right now might say buy. If it breaks the support, your technical analysis flips and says maybe sell. And it's okay to do one and then the other, to change your mind. Because in these moves, as I've shown here, if you're using stop loss just above, just below the support, the resistance, you have very limited risk. And the potential profit is larger. So you could be wrong on the buy. It could break, trigger your sell. And if you're right, you're still an overall profit. You could even be wrong on the buy, have it break the support, trigger your sell, be wrong on the sell, go back above the support and trigger a buy stop, and then you win, and you still would be potentially in overall profit, even if you lost 2 of those 3 moves. Because the potential profit here is 4 or 5 times what you're risking on the downside if you set things up that way with your stop loss. So a lot of times successful traders have a win percentage below 50%. And it's by design because they're risking much less than the potential profit. So it makes sense mathematically. You might get caught on those false signals, but then when it goes the right way, if you're right, even 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, you could still be profiting. That's a setup where people aren't worried about their win percentage. They're worried about their profit. Okay? It's not about necessarily trying to be right. It's about trying to be smart when it comes to technical analysis. And so that's something to keep in mind. It depends on your position size, Ebert. So if you're saying how much would you make from 11 points, let's round off, okay, 11.5 to 11.9. So Ebert, let's take a look. If we're looking at NEO, let's open the position. Let's open the order window. How many coins do you have for one lot? What does it say there at the top? One lot is how many NEO coins? 1,000. Okay, so for every dollar, every whole dollar it gains in the proper direction, up or down, depending which way you're trading, for every one full dollar, you would gain $1,000, right? So if you had 1,000 coins, that's how it works. If you're holding 1,000 coins, the value goes up $1, you make $1,000 because the value is for the value of one coin on the chart. So one lot position, 1,000 coins. What if it goes up 10 cents? You don't make $1,000. You make, anybody, math majors out there? 1,000 times 10 cents, 1,000 coins. Each of them go up 10 cents. You make $100, right? $100. Good. And so in your example, you're saying, what if it goes up from, and I'm rounding off a little bit, right? From 0.5 to 0.9. Okay. So that would be going up 40 cents, right? 40 cents. So 40 cents times 1,000 if you have a one lot position, which would be $400, right? Just move the decimal 3 spaces because you're multiplying by 1,000 coins. So whatever the value is, whether it goes up 1 penny in value, 10 cents in value, multiply that times the number of coins in your position, and that's it. Now you've calculated your potential profit, or your profit, hopefully. Not potential, if you already are there and you're closing it. So, and this, by the way, that works the same for any asset. If you do one lot of oil, it's 1,000 barrels. So for every $1 oil goes up, you gain 1,000 if you're buying. Or if it goes down $1 and you're buying, you lose 1,000. Or vice versa if you're selling. If you're trading gold, one lot, 100 ounces. So when the price moves $1, if you have one lot, you're gaining or losing $100. So it's all relative to what it says right here. When you open it up, it'll tell you one lot is worth how many of the assets. And then from there, it's simple math. Okay? Good question. And it's something that it's basic, but if you've never practiced it, you might not understand how to do that. And it's okay. We can always review those sorts of things, calculating margin requirements, anything like that. Please ask if you ever want to go through those examples. It's helpful for people even who've been trading for a while, because sometimes they forget how to calculate those things. Okay, so, and we've seen this trying to bounce while we're talking off the support lines we drew. So you scalpers might have already made a profit. I don't know if you all noticed, we have a new asset, relatively new. It's a indice for cryptos. So it's the top 10 traded by volume cryptos into one indice. So it helps normalize the movement. So if there's one outlier, it doesn't throw the whole movement off, kind of like if you're trading on indices, which are also great for the same reason. You know, the NASDAQ 100, okay, there's 100 companies. If one of them goes opposite of what you thought, the other 99 can still hold the course. It kind of stabilizes things when you trade with indices. And so the crypto 10 is same sort of idea. So what do we see? We looked at the majority of the indices we looked at, stopped the downtrend and started an uptrend. And what do we see here? Same thing. On the crypto indice, we see that downtrend that occurred. We see the downtrend that occurred. We see the top 10 cryptos have all, on average, stabilized and started a reversal of that downtrend. And we also see, in general, there's a bit of a support area, support that is formed, that it's starting to bounce up off of. Okay? Again, it can break the support and drop, or it can rise back up. And again, you don't have to try and guess what will happen. You can trade both of them. One with a market move, maybe, one with a pending the other way, just in case it breaks the support. Any questions about the new crypto indice or anything else? Another thing to keep in mind, the cryptos have been mimicking gold for the past several months. Not exact, right? But the cryptos have been acting as safe havens. And what happened to gold today? Did anyone notice what happened with gold today? Yeah, take a look. Gold is up. So if cryptos for some time have been mimicking gold as safe haven. Not that they're always the same, but look, didn't gold reverse its downtrend? Didn't gold break through the resistance, form a new support, broke through? Here's the old resistance, resistance, resistance. It's back on top of the support. It looks a lot like the cryptos we just looked at. So if you're trying to get confirmation, confirmatory assets, if you have seen and noticed that a lot of the time cryptos have been mimicking gold, if you believe gold will continue to go up today, then maybe you believe cryptos are more likely to go up today. If you think gold will go down, then maybe you believe cryptos are more likely to go down today. And we all know what happens with safe haven assets when there's news like, hey, things are going bad with US-China trade negotiations, which is kind of why gold shot up today. That type of news was leaking out that, hey, China's pushing back, saying we want tariffs rolled back, and Trump saying, no, I don't want to roll back tariffs. So gold shot up with that somewhat negative fundamental news coming out. So there's reason for gold maybe to climb still. Doesn't mean it can't drop. Doesn't mean the news can't change. But as we know it now, there's some fundamental news for safe havens to strengthen, and they've already done so today. So maybe that helps you anticipate what you think cryptos will do today as well. All right, just an idea, just a bit of information that as we've been putting gold side by side with some of the main crypto movements, many of them, and the crypto index specifically have been mimicking the movement of gold. Again, not 100%, but there's been quite a bit of similarity in the past month. Does anyone have an idea why would people view cryptos as a safe haven when there's all kinds of economic bickering going on or poor economic numbers? Why would cryptos be viewed like gold as a safe haven? Yeah, exactly. They don't have economic announcements. There's no country. There's no country where you'd say, oh, there's bad economy in such and such place, and so that's bad for cryptocurrencies. There's no such thing. So it's viewed as maybe more stable in that regard, which is an amazing thing because go back a year and a half, 2 years, and people were fearful of cryptos. They didn't view it as safe, as a safe haven. And now many traders seem to be trading it similar to some of the other safe havens out there. Okay, so it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. If you see a similarity in the charts as well, if you think that that's the case, you could try and use that as an indicator as to which way you might want to trade as well. Okay, don't let me convince you that there's a similarity between gold and cryptos. Take a look at the charts, compare them side by side. We've done that in past webinars. We don't have time today, but we've done that, and we've seen day by day, week by week, we've matched up gold with, Bitcoin or some of the other cryptos, and we've seen it. We've seen a lot of similarity between those movements. And we've seen that when one moves before the other, many times the other follows. So one, they don't always move at the same time, and you might be able to catch one acting as a leading indicator to the other, which then is like being able to see the future, kind of, some of the time. Okay? All right, great. If nobody has any other questions, I think this is a good spot to stop. Thank you for joining. And listen, I think there's huge potential with the cryptos today, and maybe in both directions for that matter, with the big announcements coming on the USD. If you're pairing against the USD, there could be some major movements either up or down if the supports get broke. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. Bye for now, and good luck with your trading.